everybody. Welcome to Monday Morning Must Knows. My name is Merlin Rothwell, and I've got a ton of really big stuff to talk about this week. Break it into two categories, really. Earnings and central banks with a sprinkling of jobs right in the middle. Let's start things off with your earnings calendar because there's a lot going on this week. And you thought last week might have been good with Google or Alphabet and Tesla reporting earnings. Those two had a huge impact on our markets. But honestly, I think that pales in comparison to what we're going to see for this upcoming trading week. So here we'll start things off on Monday with McDonald's. You have Chesapeake Energy on semiconductor and Welltower. Tuesday, we start the big names: Microsoft, Procter & Gamble, Merck, AMD, Pfizer, Modellins, and Starbucks. And there are several other big names on here. I just don't have space on the graphic to put them all in, so make sure you check your earnings calendar. The big piece here is obviously Microsoft. You remember that last week we had that whole issue with CrowdStrike, which certainly impacted CrowdStrike's prices, but tied back to Microsoft a little bit as well. Couple that with Google making their comments about AI expenditures. Google saying, we spent over $2 billion last quarter in AI, and Sundar Pichai, which is the CEO, said, you know what? We're just not seeing that rate of return yet. This will take time. And I think a lot of people are kind of freaked out going, well, if all these tech companies are spending billions of dollars on AI and they're not seeing the rates of return yet, then earnings are going to miss, and that's not really good for the markets going forward. I think that's the fear factor. So Microsoft, the big one starting on Tuesday, they are spending a lot of money on AI. Wednesday brings us even more Magnificent Seven stocks. You've got Meta, MasterCard, Qualcomm, ARM Semiconductors. You can see that chip manufacturing there. Lam Research, Boeing, and Altria rounding out Wednesday. Thursday, probably the biggest day of the week because it brings up Apple, Amazon, Toyota Motors, Shell, Intel, ConocoPhillips, and Anheuser-Busch, or AB InBev, whichever one you want to call it. Budweiser is fine. And rounding it out on Friday, Berkshire Hathaway, ExxonMobil, and Chevron for the clean sweep of earnings. Again, 1,193. It is going to be a very busy week. Now let's shift our focus over to the U.S. employment data. Depending on who you listen to, some politicians are saying unemployment's really good, and others are saying, oh, it's terrible, it's surging. Well, the truth is the unemployment numbers have been going up slowly. We were down at 3.4, now we're at 4.1, but that's been over about a year, so not that bad of an increase while it is increasing. So let's start things off with a whole table full of economic data here with regards to the unemployment situation or employment, depending which piece of data it is. We'll start things off early on in the week. As you can see here, JOLTS job openings Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, followed up the next day by ADP non-farm employment change on Wednesday at 8:15 a.m. Eastern Time, the typical unemployment claims on Thursday at 8:30 a.m., and finally a double on Friday, which is going to be the unemployment rate and non-farm employment change at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, again, these are pretty important pieces of data. However, most people focusing on that ADP non-farm employment change on Wednesday and that unemployment rate on Friday. I do expect this to add a little bit extra sprinkling of volatility to an already very volatile market simply because of the earnings calendar. Okay, now we get to the big stuff. You're like, wait a minute, Merlin, wasn't that the big stuff? No, we actually have more to happen here for the week, and that's going to revolve around central banks. We're going to start things off with Japan. That's right, Japan making a tentative announcement. They may say something, they may not. Right now, the expectation is they're going to say just under 0.1%. Remember, they were negative for quite some time, so the fact they're even positive is exciting. The expectation is for many people that they are going to start to slowly increase their rates going forward, but right now the expectation is they stay the same at just right around 0.1. Then we move to the big daddy, the United States of America. Here we come with our rate statement. That's going to happen on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Its survey says, drum roll, yeah, no, we're staying right where we're at. Most likely, I think there's like a 99% probability right now as of recording this that we're going to stay at 5.5%. I do believe we'll see the next rate increase for the U.S. in September, but we'll have to wait and see what the Fed funds future show us in another month. All right, that's important. But what's really important is the press conference that I always talk about. That press conference means that these media pundits will be able to ask their questions of Jerome Powell and grill him on specific issues, which may create a lot of volatility. I personally love watching that press conference just because I might catch him slipping or a little bit of better understanding of what he is trying to accomplish with interest rates, where interest rates may go, different viewpoints on the economy, and that may lead to better trading for myself. And lastly, we have one more central bank. That's going to be the Bank of England reporting. There is the change. Around Thursday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, so they will make their rate statement. They're expected to cut rates by 25 basis points. Interesting. 25 basis point cut there, eh? Well, remember, we are kind of in this keep up with the Joneses world, and the U.S. has kind of held steady at 5.5%, and we're seeing other central banks now lower their rates. This may put pressure on the U.S. later on to lower their rates as well. The other piece here is the MPC bank rate votes. That will be happening Thursday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time as well. And this is something that's unique to the UK, which is you have several voting members. If my memory serves me correct, it's 9 voting members. And each of those voting members will say, should we raise, should we lower, or should we keep rates the same? And that is a very transparent, open record of what these politicians are thinking or central bankers are thinking about their markets going forward. And that could, of course, sway these markets even more. So if you're trading the British pound, Thursday, 7 a.m. Eastern Time is going to be a wild time for you. And if you're trading the U.S. markets, just know at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, we should get a lot of volatility for the U.S. markets. Now, we have a ton of information on our plates, from the earnings calendars, which has 4 of the major FANG stocks, to some jobs data, and 3 central banks. It's going to be a wild week. Be very careful with your trading. Make sure you practice good risk management. That, my friends, is your Monday Morning Must-Knows. We'll see you next week.